Every surfer has heard this phrase in the past. You should have been here yesterday. The winter of 2021-22 altered that phrase from past to future tense. This winter, I chased waves from San Diego to Santa Barbara. I live in the South Bay region of Southern California, and while we're not as popular as other Southern California regions, we can score some pretty insane days of surf that can rival any of those spots. So as you'll see, I spend many days here in the South Bay chasing the winter swells. Overall, I had a blast this winter. During my search for waves, I found a big swell down south, a near perfect day at Rincon, some crazy barrels here in the South Bay, and then all around gem of a day in Huntington. I made new friends and laughed with old. I chased the tsunami with Ben Gravy.
We tried to surf the tsunami. This will forever go down in the history books.
And learned how to use duct tape to repair your car from Casey Neistat.
And I hit a tree and it broke off the whole thing, so I duct taped it on.
So yeah, it was an amazing winter. Well, yes, we had a pretty good winter for waves. It could have been much better. I can't tell you how many times we'd say, yeah, today was okay, but tomorrow should be really good. Both the wind and surf forecasts were lining up to be insane. But when tomorrow arrived, either the ocean surface never cleaned up or the wind died too early overnight, taking the waves with it. This was the winter that changed the old saying, you should have been here yesterday, to tomorrow should be good. The surfer's version of winter typically starts in October and ends in late March. So I'm gonna kick things off with my October adventures. A wonky October 11th morning of surf kicked off our winter and should have given us a heads up as to what we should be expecting. We were super excited for the swell because the winds were forecasted to be offshore, which they were, but unfortunately there was some leftover wonkiness. Luckily, while the outside remained jumbled, the waves themselves stayed relatively smooth, giving familiar faces something to rip into. Left this session wondering what could have been if the winds would have just turned offshore earlier. You know what? Tomorrow should be good. Our next swell hit a little bit over a week later on October 21st, and I headed to Burnout searching for barrels. This swell definitely brought some big, heavy sets, but unfortunately also hit during a super high tide, which created some crazy back waves, causing chaos to the incoming waves. That didn't seem to bother the local wild or the surfers who ride this freakish wave every chance they get. swell left us wondering what could have been if there was a little less tide. So you know what? Tomorrow should be good. October ended with a solid combo swell that hit on the 26th. I'd heard that Huntington had been good the prior days, so I headed south. The trip paid off as the north side was absolutely firing. This day left me feeling that things were starting to heat up. Tomorrow was definitely going to be good. Well, tomorrow wasn't firing, but there was another swell that hit November 3rd and lasted 3 days, all of which I spent at El Porto. On the first day of the swell, November 3rd, it started with some spooky weather, which had some surfers doing some really weird stuff. The beefy part of the swell hadn't hit yet, but the waves were in that fun size range. End of the session, guys were getting loosened up for tomorrow, when the big part of the swell was to arrive. Yep, tomorrow was gonna be good. Tomorrow came and the swell filled in. Some crazy double overhead plus sets were thundering through the lineup, making the paddle out almost impossible. Unfortunately, this was El Porto's first swell of the year, so no sandbars had formed yet, leaving most of these waves to simply close out. session like this will leave you happy to be on solid ground, but also thinking, oh yeah, a little less size with some newly formed sandbars, tomorrow will definitely be good. The third day of the swell arrived and the hopeful thoughts paid off. The size had died down, leaving it surfable for people of all skill levels. Even with the craziness in the lineup, the regular crew managed to score some super fun waves rolling off that newly formed sandbar. These new sandbars had us frothing for what's to come with the next swell. Tomorrow should be good. Tomorrow took over 3 weeks. We had an ugly flats, but now we had a new wind swell which hit December 9th, so I headed to Burnout, searching once again for barrels. It was a warm morning. Well, not that warm, but the sun was shining and we finally had waves again. A fun session like this had us jonesing for more and hoping that, well, tomorrow would be good. Hell, nope, tomorrow wasn't good. But a week later, the wind swell hit and this one was bigger. It arrived on December 14th, which was also the coldest day of the year. I headed back to Burnout. The swell had peaked overnight and washed sand all the way to the bike path. The swell was now fading, but we still had some sizable barrels.
That one.
Oh.
Oh, and it spit. That session was insane. You gotta just imagine what would have happened if that thing would have peaked in the morning instead of overnight. Say it with me. Tomorrow should be good. Tomorrow didn't show again. 2 weeks of dismal small surf left us ready to surf anything. I wanted to get in one last session before the end of 2021, so I grabbed a couple guys and headed to El Porto hoping to find anything rideable. All right, happy New Year's, everybody. I got Travis here with me to give us the New Year's report. The weather's nice. We got the sun out here, but how are the waves?
The weather's nice. The waves are pretty bad, but my New Year's resolution is to be more optimistic, so
It's firing.
it's going to be firing in 20 minutes. And we're out.
Travis's optimism paid off, for the most part. It wasn't horrible, but it was far from good.
It was better than it looked. So the optimism paid off a little bit. Got a couple. Start the year.
Maybe that was the secret. We were going to start that positive thinking into the new year. 2022 should, or rather is, going to be good. That optimistic attitude took a few days to pay off, but it did, because a new swell rolled in on January 4th, and I, once again, headed back to El Porto. Yeah, I went to El Porto a lot this year. It's a bit of a swell magnet here in the South Bay, and if you don't mind surfing with a million other surfers, you might score some fun waves. And that's what happened during this session. There were plenty of waves to go around for surfers of all levels. A full day of good surf had me realize that this positive thought thing might actually work. Say it with me again. Thanks to Travis's insight, I was now on a full optimistic roll. I think I was becoming like an optimistic guru because this next swell was forecasted to be a doozy. For this swell, I decided to head down to San Diego. I got up at way too early o'clock and headed south. I met Dato at his local spot.
There's definitely some swell. See how it goes. I think today could be a good day of surfing.
And man, was he right. That left was absolutely firing. Hey, and the right wasn't bad either. After filming a few hours there, I packed up and headed to Blacks for part 2 of the swell. not sure if tomorrow can get any better, but it should be good. The next day, January 13th, I headed to El Porto again to find that there was still plenty of size with decent to good shape. Don't get me wrong, it's El Porto. There were still plenty of chaotic, downright dangerous closeouts. Reality started hitting the next day. It totally wasn't good at El Porto. There was still plenty of swell, but the sandbars had just disappeared overnight, leaving us with block-long closeouts. This didn't end with the best results, but hey, you know what? We were still staying positive. Guess what? It'll be good tomorrow. Nope. Tomorrow turned into a week-long flat spell. Optimism was dying. I was done. My optimism was gone. But Brad, there's a good swell coming next week. Yeah, right. But I'm sure the winds will be bad or there'll be a colossal high tide. Tomorrow wasn't going to be good. For this swell, I needed to get out of town and hit the reset button. So on January 24th, I got up at dark 30 on the second coldest day of the year and trekked north to Rincon. Oh, great. Traffic at 6:30 in the morning in the middle of nowhere? Not a good start. Then I pulled into lot 1 before sunrise, only to find it was already full. Now I'm over 2. My ugly mood quickly changed as I headed down the trail. First glance looking over the Pacific with those cotton candy clouds lifted my spirits. Then I see these waves perfectly peeling from the point all the way into the bay. This was exactly what I needed. I glanced around and noticed a beautiful hillside. Then my eyes go back into the lineup to take in the waves glistening and sparkling magically. There was a ton of talented surfers out there of all ages riding waves far better than any man-made pool. This was the type of day that gave Rincon her nickname of Queen of the Coast. Well, the good news was that the winds were forecasted to die out later that evening, meaning tomorrow should be fun. Tomorrow came, and to switch things up, I headed to Hermosa to catch up with
Word
Dane
got out quick
Eves
that
that the Queen was doing her thing, and it got crowded quick. Boards were flying everywhere. People were flying everywhere.
Kai,
Surf etiquette was
Doug,
thrown out
Kelly,
the window, and
Beck,
disarray
and
had
Travis.
taken over.
Yeah, that's quite a big group you got there.
The surf check did. The surf
I
check
had seen
didn't
enough,
get
so I
anyone
packed
too
up
excited
and
about
headed
what
out.
they saw, but heck,
Well,
they were here,
tomorrow
so
should
let's just
be
give it a try,
less
right?
crowded.
Tomorrow was not
things
only
have
less crowded,
crazier
but also
things
flat.
have happened.
Nearly
But by
a
the
month
time
of
they
tomorrows
grabbed
went
their
by
boards
without
and threw on
anything
their
remotely
suits.
decent. A decent sized swell then showed up on March 28th. The
Yeah,
waves
the
had
onshore
gotten
wind
really
was
fun,
still bad,
but
I think
Dane's
the old
on,
saying was
Kai Paula,
fine.
and Travis Logie were so starved for surf they decided to paddle out anyways.
Are we this desperate that we're paddling out on days like this?
I drove 45 minutes to get here. The coffee down here is not that good.
They managed to actually score a few fun waves. Imagine what could have been if the wind wasn't bad. Tomorrow came, and to switch things up, I headed to Hermosa to catch up with Dane, Eves, Kai, Doug, Kelly, Beck, and Travis. Yeah, the surf check didn't get anyone too excited about what they saw, but heck, they were here, so let's just give it a try, right? Crazier things have happened, but by the time they grabbed their boards and threw on their suits, the waves had gotten really fun. I think the old saying was finally correct. Tomorrow is good. Tomorrow was not only less crowded, but also flat. And it stayed flat for 2 weeks before we saw another swell. The next swell brought me back to El Porto. What a great way to end the winter and this movie. I guess in a way, I had a Hollywood-type ending to this year's movie. The wind switched offshore. The surface calmed down, and everyone had fun. Hey, next winter should be good. Thanks for watching. I'm Brad Jacobson, and I'll see you on the sand.